Admiral Krell-Zan's four hands trembled as he watched the last Coalition battleship break apart. The once mighty vessel split into burning fragments against the backdrop of stars. On the main screen of the command center, thousands of escape pods scattered like seeds in the wind. Not many would reach safety. "The 7th Fleet is gone, Admiral," said his second-in-command, voice hollow with shock. "The Vraks have broken through our final line." Krell-Zan had served the Galactic Coalition for 63 cycles. He had never imagined he would witness its fall. The Vraks Imperium ships moved with terrible purpose through the debris field, their black hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Their weapons had cut through Coalition shields as if they weren't there. "Send the emergency signal," Krell said quietly. "All remaining Coalition forces are to scatter and regroup at emergency coordinates. Civilian evacuations take priority." He knew it was too late for many worlds. The Vraks' advance had been unstoppable over the past 30 days. 6 of the 7 Coalition homeworlds were under attack or already fallen. Billions were fleeing or already dead. The transmission officer looked up. "Sir, we're receiving an urgent request from Earth." Krell-Zan's skin paled. The humans. The Coalition's greatest mistake might have been keeping them isolated all these years. Now it was too late. Jack Miller wiped sweat from his forehead as he adjusted the environmental controls in New Eden Colony's main dome. The sun beat down on the transparent surface, making the temperature control systems work overtime. The colony on HD 4307G, just 20 light-years from Earth, was humanity's second most successful outpost. 10,000 people called it home. "Jack, you've got an urgent call," said Heather from the control room doorway. "It's your sister. She says it's an emergency." Jack felt a chill. Lisa worked as a human liaison at Coalition headquarters. They hadn't spoken in months due to her classified work. He hurried to the communication center and activated the secure line. Lisa's face appeared on screen. Her eyes were red from crying, her normally neat brown hair disheveled. "What's wrong?" Jack asked immediately. "Everything," Lisa said, her voice breaking. "The Coalition is falling, Jack. The Vraks have destroyed most of our fleets. Proxima Station is gone. Dozens of worlds are under attack." Jack struggled to process her words. The Coalition had been the dominant power in this part of the galaxy for thousands of years. 7 advanced alien species united in peace and mutual defense. Humanity was just a junior associate, allowed limited technology, and restricted to Earth and a handful of colonies. How is that possible? The Coalition has thousands of ships, planetary defenses. The Vraks have new technology, something that makes our shields useless. Lisa looked over her shoulder nervously. "I don't have much time. Evacuations are starting. But there's something you need to know, something I've discovered in the diplomatic archives." Jack leaned closer, to the screen. "What?" "The Coalition has been lying to us, to all of humanity. They've been deliberately suppressing our technological development, keeping us contained. That doesn't make sense. Why would they?" "Because they're afraid of us, Jack." Lisa's eyes were intense now. The Coalition species evolved differently than humans. They're peaceful by nature. Violence is rare among them. But humans, our history is full of war. Our adaptability, our creativity in combat, it terrifies them. Jack thought of his years in Earth's military before becoming an engineer. The training, the combat simulations. It was true that Coalition species seemed uncomfortable with even the mention of conflict. "There's more," Lisa continued. "The Vraks have been moving toward Coalition space for decades. The leadership knew they were coming but thought they could negotiate peace. They were wrong." An alarm sounded on Lisa's end of the communication. Her head jerked up. "They're here. I have to go." "Jack, contact Earth's government. Tell them everything. The Coalition's leadership is in chaos. They have no plan to fight back. We need to prepare." The screen went blank before Jack could respond. He stood frozen for several seconds, then rushed to find the colony administrator. President Karen Sullivan sat at the head of the emergency council table in the underground complex beneath what was once called Washington, D.C. Representatives from Earth's nations and colonies filled the room, their faces grim. "The reports are confirmed. said General Greg Thompson, standing at a holographic display showing the galaxy map. Red markers indicated fallen coalition worlds. The Vrax Imperium has defeated coalition forces in every major engagement. Refugee ships are already arriving at our outer colonies. And the coalition kept us in the dark about all of this? Asked the Chinese representative, anger evident in her voice. According to our intelligence, Greg continued, the coalition species feared humanity's capacity for warfare. Our liaison at coalition headquarters has provided evidence that they deliberately limited our technology and expansion to keep us contained. Jack Miller sat beside the general. After bringing Lisa's warning to Earth authorities, he had been quickly brought into the emergency planning. His background in both military operations and colony engineering made him valuable. President Sullivan's face was composed, but her knuckles were white as she gripped her chair's armrests. So the peaceful galactic civilization that welcomed us with open arms was actually keeping us on a leash like dangerous animals, she said. And now that they're losing a war they never prepared for, we're supposed to help? With respect, madam. President, Jack said, speaking for the first time. My sister is still out there, along with thousands of other humans working in coalition space. And the Vrax won't stop at conquering the coalition. Every report indicates they're an expansionist empire. They'll come for us next. The room fell silent as everyone processed the implications. What are our options? The president finally asked. General Thompson gestured, and the holographic display changed to show Earth's defenses. The few dozen ships humanity possessed looked pitiful compared to the massive fleets the Vrax commanded. We can try to stay neutral and hope the Vrax ignore us, he said. Or we can fight. With what? Asked the European Union representative. Our technology is decades behind even the coalitions, which proved useless against the Vrax. A thin smile crossed Greg's face. Actually, that might be our advantage. The coalition hasn't faced a real war in centuries. They built their technology around peace, cooperation, and defense, but humans, we built ours expecting to fight, Jack finished. President Sullivan stood up. The room fell silent again. Humanity has dreamed of the stars for generations, she said. We thought we'd found friends among them, but instead found overseers. Now those overseers are falling, and something worse is coming. She looked around, the room, meeting each person's eyes. I never wanted to be a wartime president, but I will not let humanity fall without a fight. She turned to General Thompson. Prepare our forces. Convert what industries we can to military production. If the Vrax want this galaxy, they'll have to deal with humanity first. As the meeting broke up, Jack received a message. It was from Lisa, sent through emergency channels. Heading to Earth with coalition refugees, bringing critical information. The Vrax have a weakness. Humanity may be the only species that can exploit it. Jack stared at the message, hope and dread, mixing in equal measure. Humanity was about to enter a galactic war they never asked for. Everything would change. 3 weeks after the emergency council meeting, Earth had transformed. Factories that once made cars now produced armored vehicles. Shipyards built weapons instead of cargo holds. Schools became training centers. The entire planet prepared for war. Jack Miller stood in a converted warehouse outside Chicago, watching as engineers took apart a small coalition shuttle. The vessel had arrived with refugees 2 days ago. Its technology, while deliberately limited compared to full coalition capabilities, was still decades ahead of human engineering. Any progress? Jack asked Dr. Alan Wright, the lead scientist, assigned to reverse engineering alien technology. Alan ran his hand through his thinning gray hair. Some. Their power systems are incredible, clean and efficient, but their weapons? He shook his head. Designed to disable, not destroy. These beings really didn't want to hurt each other. Jack nodded. The coalition species had evolved with strong cultural taboos against killing. Their entire civilization was built on cooperation and compromise. It had worked for thousands of years, until they met an enemy that didn't share those values. Jack, a familiar voice called from the entrance. Lisa Miller rushed toward her brother, throwing her arms around him. After their brief reunion, Lisa pulled back, her expression serious. I need to show you something. She gestured toward a secure room at the back of the warehouse. Bring Dr. Wright too. Inside, Lisa activated a small device. A hologram appeared showing a Vrax soldier in full battle armor. The alien stood over, 7 feet tall with 4 arms and a thick exoskeleton. This is what we're up against, Lisa said grimly. The Vrax evolved on a high-gravity world with extreme seasons. They're stronger than humans and nearly impervious to coalition weapons. But not to ours, said a new voice. Major Samantha Powell, Earth's head of military intelligence, entered the room. Her uniform was crisp, despite having worked for days, without rest. We've been analyzing the data from coalition battles. Their weapons are designed to overload neural systems non-lethally. Effective against coalition species, but nearly useless against Vrax biology. Jack studied the hologram. What about human weapons? Samantha's smile was cold. Bullets, explosives, even our early energy weapons, they don't care if you have an exoskeleton. They just need to deliver enough force. There's more, Lisa said. She changed the hologram to show a coalition scientist performing tests. This researcher discovered something important before her world fell. Human physiology processes certain types of radiation differently than both coalition species and Vrax. We can withstand exposure levels that would incapacitate them. Dr. Wright leaned forward with sudden interest. That could be our edge. A loud commotion at the warehouse entrance interrupted them. Ambassador Thorne, a tall, spindly coalition diplomat with pale blue skin, had arrived with an entourage of other aliens. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly as he surveyed the human facility with obvious distaste. Primitive, he muttered, loud enough for everyone to hear. This is what the galaxy has come to depend on. President Sullivan entered behind the coalition delegation. She gave the ambassador a cold look before addressing the room. The first coalition refugee fleet will arrive tomorrow, she announced. Over 30,000 beings from 6 different species. New Eden Colony is preparing to receive them, along with settlements across Earth. You waste resources on hospitality, when you should focus on weapons, Ambassador Thorne said. Though I doubt anything you build will slow the Vrax advance. Jack stepped forward. With respect, Ambassador, we're doing both, and we might surprise you. Thorne's upper eyes narrowed. Humans always believe they are special. The coalition restricted your development for good reason. Your species solves problems through violence. And yet, Lisa said quietly, here you are, seeking our help because your peaceful ways couldn't stop the Vrax. The ambassador had no response. 1 month later, the USS Defiance took shape in Earth's orbit. The vessel combined human military design with adapted coalition technology. It wasn't as elegant as coalition ships, but it had something they lacked: serious firepower. Captain Eric Johnson watched from a transport shuttle as construction drones swarmed around the hull, welding the final armor plates into place. After 15 years commanding Earth's defense ships, he would lead humanity's first true warship. Impressive, isn't it? Diane Carter said beside him. As chief military engineer, she had led the design team. Coalition power systems driving, human weapons. We've installed railguns, missile arrays, and energy weapons modified from their medical technology. Will it be enough? Eric asked. Against the Vrax? Diane shrugged. We'll find out soon. The shuttle docked with the construction platform. As they floated through the airlock, Eric noticed a small group of coalition engineers watching the humans work. Their expressions showed a mix of fascination and horror. They still don't approve, Diane said, following his gaze. They don't have to. They just need to see that we can fight back. In his quarters on the Vrax command vessel, High Commander Drakthar reviewed reports from the conquered coalition worlds. Victory had come easily. Too easily. The once mighty coalition had crumbled before the Vrax advance, their weapons ineffective, their tactics predictable. A junior officer entered with a data tablet. High Commander, we've detected unusual activity in a system previously identified as a minor coalition outpost. Drakthar studied the images. A small blue-green planet, unremarkable except for the flurry of construction in its orbit. Humans, the junior officer explained. A species the Coalition kept isolated. Our intelligence suggests they have a natural tendency toward warfare that the Coalition found disturbing. Drakthar's mouth parts clicked in amusement. The Coalition feared warriors. How did they survive so long? He dismissed the report with a wave. Send a single battle group to deal with this Earth. Once the humans see our power, they will surrender like all the others, as you command. The officer bowed and left. Drakthar returned to planning the final assault on the last Coalition homeworld. These humans weren't worth his personal attention. They would be a footnote in the glorious history of the Vrax conquest. On D. Earth, Jack Miller joined a special operations training exercise outside the ruins of what was once Denver. 50 men and women from Earth's various military forces practiced tactics against simulated Vrax troops. Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez, a former South American Special Forces operator, demonstrated a new fighting technique adapted for Vrax physiology. They have 4 arms, which gives them advantages, she explained, but also creates vulnerabilities in their joint structure. She moved with blinding speed, striking at specific points on the training dummy. Hit them here and here. Their exoskeleton doesn't protect these areas. Jack watched with admiration. Humans had spent their history fighting each other, developing countless ways to exploit weaknesses. Now they were turning those skills against a common enemy. A communication officer ran up to the training field. Priority message from space. Command. A Vrax battle group just exited faster than light travel near Jupiter. 6 ships heading toward Earth. The first test of humanity was about to begin. Alarms blared throughout Earth's orbital stations as the 6 Vrax ships approached. Their black hulls absorbed the light from the distant sun, making them look like moving shadows against the stars. Captain Eric Johnson stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance watching the enemy vessels on the main screen. His crew, a mix of experienced space officers and hastily trained recruits, waited for his orders. This would be humanity's first battle against an alien force. All weapon systems. Online, reported his weapons officer. Railguns charged. Missile bays ready. Eric took a deep breath. The Vrax ships were larger and more numerous than the Defiance, but the element of surprise was on their side. The Vrax had no idea what humans were capable of. Send the message. We prepared, Eric ordered. The communications officer nodded. Broadcasting on all frequencies. A simple audio message played, translated into the Vrax language by Coalition refugees. Attention Vrax vessels. This is Earth defense. Our planet is sovereign territory. Retreat immediately, or we will defend ourselves. The response came quickly. The lead Vrax ship accelerated toward Earth, weapons charging. The other 5 spread out in standard Coalition battle formation. Eric smiled grimly. They're using tactics designed to fight Coalition ships, prepare main weapons, target their lead, vessels' propulsion systems. The Defiance moved from behind Earth's moon, revealing itself to the enemy. The Vrax ships hesitated momentarily, probably surprised by the unfamiliar design. Fire. The Defiance shuddered as its main railgun launched a projectile at tremendous speed. The magnetically accelerated round crossed the space between the ships in seconds, slamming into the lead Vrax vessel. The enemy ship's shields flared and collapsed under an impact they weren't designed to withstand. Direct hit, shouted the weapons officer. Their rear engines are damaged. Before the Vrax could recover, the Defiance fired again. This time missiles streaked toward the enemy, carrying warheads designed based on human nuclear weapons but enhanced with Coalition power technology. 2 Vrax ships were crippled in the first exchange. The remaining 4 regrouped and returned. Fire. Energy beams lashed out, striking the Defiance's shields. Shields holding at 60%, reported the defensive systems officer. They're adjusting their weapons. Eric nodded. As expected. Implement evasive pattern Baker. Launch fighter squadron. From launch bays along the Defiance's hull, 20 small fighter craft emerged. These were entirely human designs built for speed and maneuverability. Each carried weapons that would have been considered primitive by Coalition standards, but were devastatingly effective against unprepared enemies. The Vrax, accustomed to fighting the large, graceful ships of the Coalition, seemed confused by the small, darting human fighters. Their weapons were designed to disable huge vessels, not track nimble targets. As the battle raged above Earth, humans around the planet watched through telescopes and live feeds. In the command center beneath the old Pentagon building, President Sullivan and her military advisors monitored the situation. "The Defiance is holding its own," General Thompson reported, "and our fighters are causing significant damage. The Viracs are adapting," warned Major Powell. "Look at their firing patterns." On the main screen, they could see the Viracs ships changing tactics, focusing their fire more effectively. 2 human fighters disappeared in bursts of light. "President," Sullivan's face remained calm, but her hands gripped her chair tightly. "How long until our second ship is ready?" "The Resolute needs at least another week," Thompson replied. "The Defiance is on its own for now." Aboard the lead Virax vessel, Commander Kelvor watched in disbelief as his battle group struggled against the single human ship and its small attack craft. 2 of his vessels were already crippled, and a third was showing significant damage. "Impossible," he hissed. "These primitives should not have such weapons." His tactical officer, nursing an injury from a console explosion, looked up. "Their technology is crude but effective. They're using projectile weapons and nuclear devices, enhanced somehow with Coalition energy systems. Why would the Coalition never use such weapons? According to our intelligence, the Coalition species are physiologically adverse to violence. They don't think like these humans." Kelvor studied the battle display. The human ship fought differently than any Coalition vessel he had encountered. It was aggressive, unpredictable, willing to take damage to inflict greater harm. And those small fighter craft, they flew directly into danger, making attack runs that seemed suicidal. "Send a priority message to High Command," Kelvor ordered. "These humans are not like the Coalition. We need reinforcements." Jack Miller sat in a transport shuttle heading toward Mars Colony with his special operations team. Their mission was to secure the colony before the Vrax could target it. Through the viewport, he could see flashes of light in the distance, the battle for Earth orbit. Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez checked her weapon beside him. "First time humans have ever fought aliens," she said quietly. "Never thought I'd see the day." "The Coalition should have let us help them from the beginning," Jack replied. "Maybe together we could have stopped the Vrax before they gained so much territory." The shuttle pilot called back from the cockpit. "Good news. The Defiance has destroyed 3 Vrax ships. The others are retreating." A cheer went up from the soldiers. Their first encounter with the alien enemy had ended in victory. Jack didn't join the celebration. He knew better than to think one battle meant the war was going well. The Vrax controlled hundreds of worlds now. They would be back and in greater numbers. In the laboratory complex beneath Geneva, Dr. Alan Wright and a team of scientists examined captured Vrax technology from debris recovered after the battle. Coalition scientists worked alongside them, their earlier disdain for human methods replaced by cautious respect. "Their shield systems are designed to disperse energy weapons," a Coalition engineer named Vix explained. "That's why our weapons were ineffective. But your projectile weapons deliver focused kinetic energy at a single point." "Old-fashioned bullets," Dr. Wright said with a smile. "Sometimes the simplest solution works best." Vix's 4 eyes blinked, in sequence a sign of deep thought in his species. "The Coalition has avoided developing weapons for so long that we forgot the basic principles of physics. Force is force, whether delivered by energy beam or solid matter. We've also found something else," Dr. Wright said, leading Vix to another workstation. "The radiation signature from their ship suggests a vulnerability in their power systems. If we can develop a weapon that targets this specific frequency, you could disable their vessels without destroying them," Vix finished. "Or destroy them more efficiently," Wright corrected. "This is war, after all." Vix looked uncomfortable but nodded. "Yes, it is war, and your species seems better suited for it than mine." Dr. Wright put a hand on the alien's shoulder. "We're good at fighting, but the Coalition is good at building peace. We'll need both skills to win this war and what comes after." High Commander Drakthar received Commander Kelvor's report with growing rage. 3 ships lost to a primitive species that the Coalition had kept isolated? Impossible. Prepare the main fleet, he ordered his staff. The conquest of the final Coalition world can wait. These humans require my personal attention. As his officers rushed to comply, Drakthar studied the battle recordings. The humans fought with a ferocity and creativity he had never seen in the Coalition forces. They used simple but effective weapons. They employed unpredictable tactics. They seemed to embrace the chaos of battle rather than trying to control it. For the first time since the Vrax campaign began, Drakthar felt something close to doubt. These humans were different. They would not fall easily like the Coalition worlds. Would need to destroy them completely. 1 month after Earth's first victory, the situation had changed dramatically. Humanity was no longer fighting a small battle group, but facing the main Vrax fleet. 50 massive warships had entered the solar system, led by High Commander Drakthar himself. Vice Admiral Linda Franklin stood on the bridge of the USS Resolute, Earth's second warship. Beside her, the view screen showed the grim reality. The orbital defense station above Mars was gone, destroyed in the first Vrax attack. The colony below had suffered massive damage. Thousands were dead or missing. The Defiance is reporting heavy damage but still operational, her communications officer reported. Captain Johnson requests permission to fall back to Earth. Granted, Linda said. Her face was calm, but inside she felt a storm of emotions. The Vrax had struck with overwhelming force, clearly intent on making humanity pay for their earlier defeat. Earth now had 5 warships, each built by combining human military design with Coalition technology. It wasn't enough against 50 Virax vessels, but humans had never been good at accepting impossible odds. All ships, implement Defense Plan Charlie, Linda ordered. Prepare for the next wave. As the human fleet regrouped, Coalition representatives watched from the safety bunkers beneath Earth's surface. Ambassador Thorne and Commander Vix stood before holographic displays showing the battle above. They cannot win, Thorne said, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in distress. The Vrax numbers are too great. Perhaps, Vix replied. But these humans fight differently than we do. They understand something about warfare that the Coalition forgot long ago. Violence and death, Thorne said with disgust. Sacrifice, Vix corrected. The willingness to risk everything for victory. In a medical facility in Chicago, Paul Martinez lay in a hospital bed, recovering from injuries sustained during the attack on Mars colony. As a civilian engineer, he had been helping to build new habitats when the Vrax struck. Now he was one of only a few hundred survivors evacuated before the colony fell. Dr. Nancy Kim checked his vital signs. "You're healing well," she told him. "Another few days and you can leave." Paul stared at the ceiling. "To go where? My home is gone. My family." His voice broke. Nancy put a gentle hand on his shoulder. She understood his pain. Many had lost loved ones in the Mars attack. "I need to do something," Paul said after a moment. "I can't just lie here while those monsters are out there. I worked with mining explosives before Mars. Maybe I could help with weapons development?" Nancy was about to reply when an urgent call came through her communication device. "Dr. Kim, please report to the research lab immediately. We've made a breakthrough with the Vrax biological samples." She looked at Paul apologetically. "I have to go, but I'll talk to someone about your offer. We need everyone's skills now." As she hurried away, Paul turned to watch the news feed on the wall monitor. The human fleet was engaged with Vrax forces near Earth's moon. Despite being outnumbered, the Earth ships were fighting fiercely. Paul clenched his fists. He would find a way to join that fight. Jack Miller's Special Operations team crouched in the shadows of an abandoned Coalition research station orbiting Saturn. Since the fall of Mars, they had been conducting hit-and-run missions against Virax supply. "Lines! Target approaching," Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez whispered over the comm channel. "Vrax transport ship, minimal escort." "Everyone in position?" Jack asked. His team signaled readiness. Their plan was simple but dangerous. The team would plant explosive devices on the transport's engines, then escape in their stealth shuttle before detonation. The transport likely carried supplies for the Vrax fleet attacking Earth. As the huge vessel docked with the station, Jack led his team through the airlock. They moved silently in their advanced combat suits, a blend of human, design and coalition materials. Inside the station, they encountered the first Virax guards. The aliens were tall and imposing in their battle armor, forearms holding energy weapons. But Jack's team had trained for this. Maria fired first, her modified rifle sending projectiles through the weak points in Vrax armor. The aliens fell before they could raise the alarm. "Move quickly," Jack ordered. "We have 10 minutes before the next security sweep." The team raced through the station toward the docking bay. When they reached the transport ship, they split into pairs to plant explosives at key points. Jack and Maria took the main engine section. As they worked, Jack noticed something unusual: a storage compartment with heavy security measures. "This looks important," he said, examining the locking mechanism. Using tools adapted from coalition technology, he bypassed the security system. Inside were data storage devices and what appeared to be technical schematics. Jack quickly connected a portable scanner to copy the information. "Jack, we need to go," Maria urged, checking the time. "Security sweep in 2 minutes." He nodded, finishing the download. "Got it. Let's move." The team retreated to their shuttle, launching just as alarms began to sound throughout the station. As they accelerated away, the explosives detonated. The Vrax transport ship broke apart, its destruction lighting up the darkness of space. "Good work, everyone," Jack said. Then he held up the data device. "And we might have something even more valuable than a destroyed transport." On Earth, President Sullivan met with her war council. The news was not good. "The Vrax have established a blockade around Earth," General Thompson reported. "Our ships are holding them back for now, but we're taking heavy losses. Vice Admiral Franklin estimates we can maintain this defense for maybe another week." "What about evacuation plans?" the president asked. "We've moved as many civilians as possible to underground shelters," Major Powell said. "But long-term survival there is limited, and we don't have enough ships to evacuate to the outer colonies." Lisa Miller, now serving as liaison between human and coalition forces, spoke up. "The coalition refugees have offered their remaining vessels to help. They can take perhaps 20,000 people to safe territories beyond Vrax control." President Sullivan shook her head. 20,000 out of billions. We need a better solution." She turned to Dr. Wright. "How is your research progressing?" The scientist looked tired but determined. "We've made a breakthrough. The biological samples from captured Vrax showed an unusual sensitivity to a specific radiation frequency. Dr. Kim believes we can develop a weapon that targets their nervous system without harming humans or coalition species." "How soon?" "Days, maybe. But delivering it to the Vrax fleet would be difficult. Their shields would block any conventional missile carrying the device." The room fell silent as everyone considered the problem. Then Lisa's communication device beeped. She read the message with widening eyes. "Jack's team just returned from their mission," she announced. "They captured Vrax technical data, including detailed schematics of their flagship's shield systems." For the first time in days, President Sullivan smiled. "That's what we needed. A way in." High Commander Drakthar watched with satisfaction as his fleet maintained the blockade around Earth. The human ships fought bravely, but were gradually being worn down. Soon he would order the final assault. "High Commander," his tactical officer, reported, "We've lost contact with the supply transport at the Saturn station." Drakthar waved a dismissive hand. "A minor setback. Dispatch another transport." "There's more. Our security systems detected an unauthorized data access before communications were lost." This caught Drakthar's attention. "What data was compromised?" "Unknown. At this time, the transport systems were connected to our fleet network for updates." A cold feeling spread through Drakthar's body. These humans were proving more troublesome than expected. They fought differently than the coalition, more aggressive, more willing to take risks. And now, They might have access to Vrak's technical data. Increase security protocols across all systems, he ordered, and prepare the fleet for the final attack. We end this tomorrow. As his officers rushed to comply, Drakthar stared at the blue-green planet on his view screen. Soon it would be just another conquered world in the growing Vrak's empire, yet somehow he couldn't shake a feeling of unease. These humans were dangerous in a way the Coalition never was. They understood war. They embraced it. For the first time in his long military career, Drakthar wondered if victory was truly certain. Dawn broke over Earth's major cities, possibly for the last time. Citizens watched the skies, knowing that the final battle was about to begin. The massive Vrak's fleet had moved into attack position, their black ships visible even to the naked eye as dark spots against the morning sky. In the command center beneath Washington, D.C., President Sullivan addressed the combined human and coalition forces via holographic broadcast. "Today we face our greatest challenge," she said, her voice steady despite the enormous pressure. "The Vraks believe they have won this war. They destroyed the coalition fleets. They attacked our colonies. They think humans will fall just as easily." She paused, looking at the tired but determined faces before her. They are wrong. On screens around the room, officers and troops from around the world nodded in agreement. "We have one chance to end this threat," the president continued. "One opportunity to show the Vraks that humanity will not be conquered. Every person here knows their role. Every ship knows its mission." She straightened her shoulders. "Let's show the galaxy what happens when humanity enters the fight." As the broadcast ended, Jack Miller checked his equipment one final time. His special operations team had volunteered for the most dangerous part of the mission, delivering Dr. Kim's biological agent directly to the Vrak's flagship. Lisa approached her brother, concern evident on her face. "The Defiance will get you as close as possible, but reaching the flagship will be extremely dangerous." "It's our best shot," Jack replied. "The biological agent needs to be deployed inside their environmental systems to affect the entire fleet." Lisa hugged him tightly. "Be careful." Across the room, Paul Martinez adjusted his combat suit. After recovering from his injuries, he had insisted on joining Jack's team, his knowledge of explosives making him valuable for the mission. The loss of his family on Mars drove him forward, giving him purpose amid grief. Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez checked the team's weapons. "Transport leaves in 5 minutes. Everyone ready?" The soldiers nodded grimly. None expected to return from this mission. The USS Defiance and Resolute led Earth's remaining ships in a bold formation directly toward the Vrak's fleet. Behind them, thousands of small fighter craft prepared to launch. It looked like a desperate head-on attack, exactly what the Vraks expected. Captain Eric Johnson stood on the Defiance's bridge, his uniform bearing the scorch marks from previous battles. "All systems ready, Admiral?" Vice Admiral Linda Franklin nodded from her position on the Resolute. "Ready, Captain. Begin Operation Spearhead." "Launching fighters now," Eric ordered. "Main weapons, prepare to fire on my mark." The human fighters streamed from their carriers, forming into attack squadrons. But instead of heading directly toward the Vraks, they split into 3 groups, each taking a different approach vector. On the Vrak's flagship, High Commander Drakthar watched the human forces approach. "Predictable," he told his officers. "They launch a final desperate attack rather than surrender." He pointed to the main human ships. "Focus our fire on their capital vessels. Without them, their fighters will be easy targets." The Vrak's fleet opened fire, enormous energy weapons lashing out at the human ships. The Defiance and Resolute took multiple hits, their shields flaring with each impact. "Shields at 40%, reported the Defiance's defensive officer. Captain Johnson nodded calmly. "Hold course. Return fire with main weapons." The Defiance's railguns fired in sequence, the magnetically accelerated projectiles slamming into Vrak's vessels with devastating effect. Several smaller enemy ships broke formation as their shields failed. Meanwhile, the human fighter squadrons executed a complex series of maneuvers, drawing Vrak's fire away from a specific section of their fleet. In the confusion, a single stealth shuttle slipped between the Vrak's vessels, its advanced cloaking technology a blend of human ingenuity and coalition science, masking it from enemy sensors. Inside the shuttle, Jack Miller addressed his team. "We have one shot at this. The Vrax flagship's shields have a maintenance access point that cycles every 90 seconds. When it opens, we'll have exactly 6 seconds to pass through." "And if we miss it?" asked Paul. "Then we hit the shields at—" "Full speed," Jack said grimly. "Either way, we're going in." The shuttle pilot, her eyes fixed on her instruments, called out, "Approaching access point in 3, 2, 1. She gunned the engines. The shuttle shot forward, passing through the momentary gap in the flagship's shields. They were in. "Find a docking point," Jack ordered. "Preferably somewhere less guarded." The shuttle circled the enormous Vrax vessel, eventually attaching to a secondary maintenance airlock. Jack's team quickly cut through the outer door and entered the ship. Back in the main battle, the human fleet was taking heavy damage. 3 smaller vessels had already been destroyed, their crews lost, but they were inflicting serious casualties on the Virax as well. "The Resolute's engines are failing," reported Eric's communications officer. "Admiral Franklin reports they can maintain position for only a few more minutes." Eric studied the tactical display. The battle was unfolding exactly as planned. Violent, chaotic, all attention focused on the main engagement. No one would notice a small team infiltrating the flagship. "Tell all ships to continue firing," he ordered. "We need to hold them as long as possible." Inside the Vrax flagship, Jack's team moved swiftly through the corridors, eliminating guards before they could sound alarms. The ship's interior was vast, with high ceilings to accommodate the tall Vrax. Everything was designed for efficiency, with none of the comfort or aesthetics humans valued. "Life support control should be 2 levels up," Jack said, consulting the schematics they had stolen. "That's where we need to plant Dr. Kim's device." As they approached a main junction, heavy footsteps sounded ahead. A full squad of Vrax soldiers rounded the corner, immediately opening fire. Maria pushed Jack behind cover, returning fire with practiced precision. 2 Vrax fell, but more appeared behind them. "We're cut off from the direct route," she shouted over the weapons fire. Paul pointed to a maintenance shaft. "This might lead up to the next level, worth a try." The team retreated, covering each other, as they climbed into the narrow shaft. It wasn't designed for Virax, making it perfect for the smaller humans. After navigating a maze of service tunnels, they emerged near the life support control room. 2 guards stood at the entrance. "I'll handle this," Maria whispered. She moved silently along the ceiling supports, a technique impossible for the heavier Vrax. Dropping behind the guards, she neutralized them before they could react. Inside the control room, Paul whistled softly. "This is it, the central air processing unit for the entire ship." Jack removed Dr. Kim's device from his pack, a small cylinder containing the biological agent designed to target Vrax nervous systems without affecting humans or coalition species. "Once this activates, we have 10 minutes to get off the ship," Jack said, setting the timer. "After that, every Vrax on board will be incapacitated." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. A voice over the intercom barked orders in the Vrax language. "They know we're here," Maria warned. "We need to move." Jack secured the device in the air system and started the countdown. "Now we just need to find a way off this ship." On the bridge of the Vrax flagship, High Commander Drakthar received the security alert with rage. "Humans, inside my ship." His 4 hands clenched into fists. "Find them immediately." His tactical officer worked frantically at the control panel. "They've accessed the life support systems, High Commander." "Seal all escape routes," Drakthar ordered. "I will deal with these intruders myself." Taking his personal guard, Drakthar headed toward the life support control room. These humans would pay for their audacity. As Jack's team fought their way back toward their shuttle, the battle outside reached its climax. The human fleet had formed a tight defensive formation, concentrating their firepower on the Vrax vessels. Closest to Earth, the Defiance, heavily damaged but still operational, fired its remaining weapons in continuous succession. Captain Johnson, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead, remained standing even as consoles exploded around him. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a message from the ground. Dr. Wright says the bioweapon has been activated." All our ships need to pull back immediately. Eric nodded. Send the retreat signal. All vessels withdraw to minimum safe distance. The human ships began disengaging from battle, taking heavy fire as they retreated. Several didn't make it, consumed by Vrak's weapons. But the majority pulled back, forming a new defensive line far from the Vrak's fleet. Confused by this sudden withdrawal, the Vraks hesitated. Then their ships began to drift. One by one, their weapons went silent. Inside the flagship, Jack and his team had nearly reached their shuttle when they encountered Commander Drakthar and his guards. The Vrak's leader was impressive up close, his armor gleaming, his four eyes fixed on the humans with pure hatred. "You," he growled in badly accented English. "You will not leave this ship alive." The guards opened fire, forcing the humans into cover. Jack and Maria returned fire, their weapons designed specifically to penetrate Vrak's armor. Then, suddenly, Drakthar stumbled. His guards followed suit, their movements becoming uncoordinated. The bioweapon was taking effect. "It's working," Jack said. "Let's go while they're disoriented."